Welcome to the Four Borders podcast.
Hey, Dave, welcome back. Welcome everybody to the Fore podcast. Basically, we talk about football, fantasy football, golf, disc golf, anything that a regular person might do on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Dave, the football games on Thanksgiving kind of just wrapped up. I know we're on Saturday, but we had three games on the docket on Thursday, and we're just going to do a quick recap of the top four takeaways that we had from those games. Basically, right?
Basically, yep.
Basically. Okay, without any further ado, I'm gonna kick this off. The fourth takeaway that we saw from Thursday's games was the 49ers are looking good again. If everybody recalls, they were the team to beat at the beginning of the season. And of course, Philly was in there too in that conversation. But the 49ers were 5-0 and they were looking unstoppable and they were just blowing people out of the water, but then they hit a couple snags. The first one came against the Browns, where they lost 19-17. They just couldn't get anything moving, and Purdy was looking a little fallible then. Then they lost in Minnesota to the Vikings, 17-22, and then they lost three in a row to the Bengals, 31-17. Feel like they were. I don't know if anybody really felt like they were in free fall at that point, but they just were not looking good. They had Debo was out, they had Trent Williams out, and they were banged up. So I think that was affecting them. But now they're just starting to rock and roll. 2 weeks ago, they beat the Jaguars 34-3. They steamrolled them, and they beat the Bucks 27-14. 3 weeks ago they beat the Jags. Then they beat the Bucks 27-14, and then on Thanksgiving Day they beat the Seahawks 31-13. It really wasn't that close of a game either. I think it was 21-3 at half, and it was just they're looking good. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think Trent Williams coming back has made a big difference, and Purdy has minimized his mistakes. They have so many potent weapons on that offense. I feel like they could pretty much score at will. McCaffrey, I think, has scored a touchdown, at least one touchdown in every game except for one in his career as a 49ers. I think that's crazy.
Isn't that ironic that he scored every game except for the one where he's going to set that record? It wasn't going to be 18 games in a row where he would have set the record. He didn't do
Correct,
it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel like they could have probably done a better job prioritizing him getting a touchdown earlier in the game. They did do everything they could at the end to try to get him enough touches, but at that point, the defense knew, like, "Hey, we're not gonna be the team to give up this record to McCaffrey," so they stacked the box, and he couldn't find a way to get in. But the dude's just amazing. Generational talent is what I like to say for
Mhm.
McCaffrey.
Isn't it funny too that this game against the Seahawks and the next four games are all against bird teams? So they play the Seahawks, then they'll play the Eagles, then they'll play the Seahawks again, then the Cardinals, then the Ravens. I just think it's kind of funny. I wonder if the schedule makers had some fun with that.
I don't know if the schedule makers rank, I don't know if they arrange the schedule based on mascot or, whether or not the mascots are edible. I don't think that crosses their mind.
No, I think it's just all random. It's got to be. Probably nobody knows how they rank it. Dave, take us into number three, the third takeaway that we had from the Thanksgiving games.
So, speaking of takeaways, the Lions, all right, the turnovers are killing them. Now, Goff had 3 interceptions against the Bears, and that was a game that most people would have said, me included, this game's over. There's no way they're coming back. They found a way to come back with a couple minutes to go. That was something that the old Lions would have just lost that game for sure. Well, Thanksgiving Day rolls around, and Goff has found a way to not have the interceptions, right? But he substituted interceptions for fumbles. He had 3 fumbles, one of which was returned for a touchdown by the Packers defense. So that closed the door on the Lions. Now, the final score, 22-29, it looked like a close game when you look at the score, but really, I think the Packers had
Hmm.
that game was wrapped up most of the time. The Lions just, were outgunned. And I mean, Alex, you saw the game. What were your takeaways besides Goff's fumbles?
Yeah, unfortunately, I saw the game. I thought that the defense came out. They gave up a touchdown in the very opening drive. I think they did settle down. I just think they play a lot of zone defense, and there's always somebody straight, like right in the middle of the field that they can, any quarterback, like any apparently MVP quarterback, because anytime they play these teams now, they make them look like MVPs. I think you mentioned that, and they're just, these teams are just picking them apart. The run defense is still looking good, but the pass defense is very holy, and the offense couldn't get going either. I think the Packers had like 13 uh, they had 15 guys on the injured reserve list, and 13 of them were starters, and a lot of them were on the defensive side of the ball, and the line still couldn't move the football. It was just really frustrating to watch. The O line did not hold up. They were the best ranked O line in the league up till that point, but I know they had their rookie Colby Sorsdale in there. He's playing guard, and they just couldn't hold up. I was really surprised to see that. Something else, I just saw this. I think the Lions out, they were like 20-4, 20-5 in their last 20 some games. I think out of all those 20 wins, one team was above 500. So that does not bode well for the Lions right now. They just have to figure out how to, play better against, they can't play down to these different teams basically. They need to elevate it. They just got to start going.
Yeah, speaking of elevating, Jordan Love has had a real up and down and back up again season. So I think just like a handful of weeks ago, people were writing him off, and he torched the Lions. He finally got Christian Watson involved. Watson had the best game of his season, and they've just got so many weapons on offense. Even after losing Aaron Jones, I mean, Jaden Reed is coming on strong. They've got Christian Watson heating up. I think that the Packers, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So I kind of thought the Lions were going to, take care of them easily. And I don't want to say same old Lions here with that loss, but it was very disappointing to see that performance.
Yeah, especially on Thanksgiving Day, where I think they had like 4 or 5 primetime game victories, and everybody was really excited to see them. Everybody except for the Packers, I'm sure, to see how they came out, and they're fun to watch. But that was, it was just frustrating because again, another disappointing Thanksgiving Day for a Lions fan. Dave, enough about that. We're going to move on to the second ranked top takeaway that we had from the Thanksgiving games. The Seahawks, they look like they're in a free fall. Now, they lost the first game to the Rams. Then they beat the Lions, but then they started rattling off a couple wins, and they were looking pretty good. They lost to the Bengals. The Bengals started getting back on track. But then, they beat the Browns, but then they got smoked by the Ravens. They just barely beat the Commanders, the Durs. They lost to the Rams 17-16, and then they lost to the Seahawks, and they really got whooped on by the Seahawks. So now they're sitting at 6-5, and they're just starting to fall apart. It looks like, I don't know if it's bad matchups. I don't know if they're just hitting some of these opponents at the wrong time, but they're not looking good. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, Geno Smith has really struggled. Um, I think if there's an opposite award for comeback player of the year, what would it be? Downturn player of the year? Geno Smith is just really having an awful season right now.
Fall apart player
And
of the year.
I'm sorry.
Fall apart player of the year.
Yeah. I think if there was an award for fall apart player of the year, it could be Geno Smith.
The
He's
Fab
just
Award.
he's not making good decisions. It's a wreck. And they have weapons, right? Um Speaking of weapons, Jackson Smith and Jigba had a phenomenal catch during that game. I don't know if you saw it, one-handed diving grab. So, uh, rookie wide receiver, he got off to a slow start, but I think it's only a matter of time before he supplants, you know, Tyler Lockett in the pecking order. In a year or so, he might be the number one receiving option for the Seahawks.
Yeah, well, they've got Metcalf, of course, Charbonnet, and Kenneth Walker. I know Kenneth Walker wasn't playing, but they do have a ton of weapons, and their defense. I thought their defense wasn't too bad, but they're playing against the 49ers, and that's just tough. They're probably the best team in the league right now. So, Dave, let's move on to number one. What was the biggest takeaway that we saw from the Thanksgiving games?
So the Dallas Cowboys, had a huge win, right? But honestly, I'm not impressed. They're putting up a ton of points against really hapless teams. So the Cowboys this year are really they're going to be known for putting up a ton of points against teams that aren't doing well. But when it comes down to, playing a decent team, they're going to get exposed. So, week one, they put up 40 points against the Giants, 40-0, right? You feel like, man, these Cowboys are for real this year. And then they beat up on the Jets 30-10, and then they lose to the Cardinals
Yeah,
in
that
week
was a
3,
shocker.
28-16. And then they go on to beat up on the Patriots 38-3, right? They're feeling good. And then they play the 49ers and just get totally stomped,
Hmm.
42-10. So I think you can see the trend going. They narrowly beat the Chargers 20-17. They beat up on the Rams 43-20. They lost to the Eagles. They played a good team. Now they didn't get smoked that game, but that's a game they have to win if they're going to be taken seriously as a playoff contender. And then the week after that, they stomped the Giants again, 49-17, which honestly is not that impressive if you look at what's happening to the Giants right now. And then they beat up on the Panthers, they beat up on the Commanders, on Thanksgiving. They're not impressive wins in my opinion. Now Dak is playing great fantasy wise. If you've got him, he's the top 3 fantasy quarterback right now, but you can't depend on him to put up, 40 points a game when at the end of the schedule here, they are going to be playing the Eagles again. They're going to be playing the Bills. They're going to play the Dolphins.
Mm.
They're going to play the Lions. I mean, this is a tough remaining schedule for the Cowboys. I don't see them winning these tough games.
Yeah, I don't either. I think Mike McCarthy, I think we've talked about him in the past, and they're like the new Lions, right? If I were a Dallas fan, I wouldn't feel good going into a lot of these matchups. Like you said, they're exposing some of these bad teams, but it's just kind of a coin flip what team you're going to get each week, and yeah, I wouldn't feel super good about it.
This is something that I think is telling is how excited the Cowboys get when they beat up on a bad team. It's a little embarrassing, to be honest. If you're a really talented team, you have to you're going to be self-aware enough to know like, hey, we just beat a team that was not on our level. There's really nothing to be proud of there. But the Cowboys are celebrating, jumping into the Salvation Army bucket, grabbing turkey legs, beating up on a team like the Commanders right now, which they're not the worst team in the NFL. And Sam Howell has been just a huge revelation. He's actually I think he's the 4th ranked fantasy quarterback right now.
Mhm.
No one saw that coming.
No.
But these Cowboys are so excited about putting up lots of points on these weak, terrible teams. It just someone needs to give them a reality check. Like, hey, you can be happy you won, but really, this isn't that impressive. You need to do this when the games count, when the competition is stiff. You need to perform out there, and that's something about the Cowboys. I think the fans might be happy on the surface that they put up a lot of points, but on the inside, they have to know like this is not that impressive.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we better wrap this up. Producers in my ear chirping, saying that we're running over. So if you haven't already, then please give us a thumbs up on this video and subscribe. And we'll see you all next time on the Fore Birdies podcast. Thanks. See ya.